Hi guys, it's BJ here. Welcome to my channel. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through how to build a sales performance dashboard. So we have the main KPIs here, such as the revenue, then the profits and profit margin, then the quantity, average discounts, and also we also have the KPI drivers, such as the revenue by state and revenue by category. So with this, we can drill down to subcategory level and also drill down to product level. Then we have a table here. So from this table, we have each of the products. So we have the revenue, the profit they brings in, the quantity sold, the profit margin, and the average discount for that product. Likewise, we also have the discount impact on quantity. So this is a scatter plot measuring how if there is an increase in discounts, if it's going to impact the number of quantities sold. Then we also have this here, the sales across time. So this is spark lines here for an area chart, and also you have revenue by segments, and likewise we have the sales trend across months. Also, we also have the year-over-year growth rate for each and every one of these KPIs except the average discount. The reason why there is none for this average discount is because this one, we are the one that is setting it, so we are the one enforcing the constraints. And also, we also have this navigation bar here. This one are just designed, they are not functional. So for this data set, we'll be using the Superstore data set. So let's go over and see how it looks in Excel. Okay, so this is how the data set looks like, but we won't be using all the whole columns. We'll be selecting some columns which we'll be using for our analysis. So it contains about 21 columns and also about records. So this is the table which we'll be using. So it's a Superstore data set. Also, we also have our month-over-month growth rate. So we also have the filter. We can filter by date and also filter by region. And also we have this profile icon here, and as well as this welcome back message here. So let's filter for East and see the revenue we generate in East. First, let me clear the filter I've applied previously. Okay, so we can filter by region, central. So even looking at this, you can see that there is a story to tell from this, because we have a sharp peak from 2015 all the way to 2017. So we are consistent from 2016 to 2017. So we can be able to do a diagnostic analysis from this place as well. Although this is a descriptive aspect, but you can do a diagnostic using this month-over-month changes to check if we grow from the previous month and what are driving those growths. And also we can filter by dates, can filter by year, filter by quarter, and filter by month. So let's say the last sales we did in 2017 should be December. So as you can see from this, we make less sales this year compared to previous the same time. That means we sell more in December of 2016 compared to the December of 2017. Let's go and validate that. So for 2017 December, we made 18 grand in revenue. So as you can see, we made more in 2016 compared to 2017 of the same compared to 2017 of the same month. Okay, so guys, let's dive in. So just click on blank reports and click on this Excel workbook, because we are using an Excel workbook. Okay, sample Superstore. So we are importing the data. So we are going to import it into Power Query and do some transformation. Okay, so select this worksheet. So we are going to see the preview. So this is just a preview. So now we are supposed to load it directly into Power BI, but we want to do some transformation. So we are going to load it into Power Query, transform data. Okay, so it's loaded. Now let's select the columns which we need and also see if you can be able to do some data cleaning. So choose columns, choose columns. You don't need to go down OID. So since all these sales occurs in the United States, so we are going to uncheck this. We don't need the city, we don't need postal code, we don't need product ID. Okay, so these are all the columns required for our analysis. Click OK. Let's check if they have the appropriate data type. So this is a date data type. It's accurate. This is a text data, text data, text, 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 text. So for these sales, we have the fixed number, which is for currency, fixed decimal number, which is for currency, and also you have the whole number for quantity, and discounts also in decimal, and also you have the profits as well, which is also in decimal. So as you can see, let's check if there are no values here. So there's no null valid. It's 100% valid, 100% valid for the rest of the columns as well. And also we have to check if the records are complete. As you can see with this full green bar means all the records are complete and they have the appropriate data type as well. So click close and apply. And it's loaded. So before we start any analysis, we have to create the date table because we are going to create some DAX time calculation. So that's why I have to create a date table. We are not going to make use of these other dates here, but we'll be generating our date table from this. So now let's do that. So head over to modeling, then click new table. Okay, so pay attention to how I write this syntax. Date equals, so we'll be using the add column function. So let's move it over to a new line, add columns. So we're using the calendar auto function, calendar auto. Then we're creating the year column, year. So using the year function, year, I'm passing the dates column, which is being created from this our calendar auto. So we are creating this on the fly. That's why you are seeing this here. Once we make changes or once we commit these changes, you are going to see this date column. So date, close it, comma. So let's go for quarter as well. Quarter. So for quarter, we'll be using the string Q and concatenating with ampersand. Let's put a comma here. So we'll be calling the quarter function quarter. So pass the date column. Also for month number, comma. So month. So pass the date as well. So all this you are doing is derived column. You are deriving this column from this date column we generated here. So they are derived column, month name. So we'll be using the format function here. Don't forget your comma. Format. So you want the date and you want to format it as the first 3 characters of every month. We want the first 3 characters. Then we want day. Then the day function. So pass the date as the argument. Then close the brackets. Then close the brackets for this add column function. Close it. Then press enter. Okay, so now to see it, head over to this table view. Okay, so this is it. Now we don't want this time here, so we are going to change the format to date name, short date name. Okay, so now we're on the right track. So now the next thing to do is that head over to this table view and mark this table as date table. Then select the date column. Click save. Okay, so now let's model our relationship. So we'll be using from this place from 1 to many. Okay, so it's accurate. So from the date table to the other date table. So click save. Okay, so we have model relationship between the two tables. So let's pin the related column to the top. So that means date table, another date table. The connecting column between the two tables. Okay, so let's head back to our report view. Now, before we start our analysis again, let's create an hierarchy. We have to create an hierarchy so that you can be able to drill down. So now let's do that. So from the year column, select the year column, click create hierarchy. Okay, so let's rename this to date hierarchy. So now before we do this, there's something we did not do. So let's head over to our table view. So now this month's name, if you are to use it in our analysis, is going to be sorted alphabetically. So we don't want that. We want it to sort it chronologically. So click on month name. Okay, so from this month name, then click on this sort by column. So we'll be sorting by month number. Okay, done. So let's sort this data as well. Sort ascending. Okay, so it's sorted. So head over to our report view. So from here, now since we have already added the year because it created the hierarchy from this, that's why it's already added or how to add. Now let's add our quarter. Add to hierarchy, date hierarchy. Okay, so for the month name as well. And also for the day. We don't need to add the month number. We only use that in sorting this month's name here. So there's no need of adding this. Okay, so now we have created our data hierarchy. So now let's start with our KPIs. Let's define our KPIs. Okay, so now we'll be creating a table in which we'll be storing our KPIs. So click on this enter data. So and name it KPIs measures. Click on load. Okay, so now we'll be defining these KPIs one after the other. So we are first going to define the main KPIs, which are the revenue, profit margin, quantity, and average discount. So let's quickly define those KPIs. So click on this drop down arrow, right click here, new measure. Okay, so our first KPI is revenue. So we'll be using the sum aggregation function. Sum, so we'll be summing the sales column from the order table. So and click enter. Okay, so now let's view it. So we are going to use this KPI card. Click on it. Okay, so now let's view it. So now let's define the profit as well. Right click on KPI measure, new measure. Okay, so profit. So aggregation, sum. So we'll be summing the profit column from the other table. So let's create for profit margin as well. So new measure. Okay, so profit margin equals to, so we'll be using the divide function. We'll be dividing the profit, so this profit measure, from the revenue measure. So we'll be using 0 here in case if you encounter divide by 0 error. Okay, so enter. Okay, so now let's view it. So let's view the profit first. Okay, and also let's view the profit margin. So this is going to return in decimal, so we'll be turning it into percentage. Okay, so we can use this formatting section here to turn it into percentage. And I only want it in 0 decimal, 0. Okay, so now let's create for quantity as well. New measure. Okay, quantity. So we'll be summing also. So quantity column from the other table. So this is in row number. Okay, so now we have defined our main KPIs except the average discount. So let's quickly do that as well. So average function. So be averaging the discount column. So this is also being, we express it in percentage. Okay, so let's express it in percentage. So 0 decimal place. So it's going to approximate this. Okay, so now let me delete this card. Okay, so now we have gotten our main KPIs. Let me delete this column, we don't need it. And also deleting this column will make our Power BI to recognize this table as a measure table. So it's going to rank it. It's going to prioritize it at the top here. So that's it. Okay, so now let's group our main KPIs. Let's group them together. So head over to model view and select all the whole KPIs or measures. Okay, so now head over to this display folder and label it main KPIs. Click enter. So that has grouped them together. So now we'll be creating our last year or previous year KPIs as well. So head over to report view. So now on this KPI measure, click on it, new measure. So we'll be creating the previous year for revenue, for profit, and for quantity. And also, you'll also be creating the previous month for revenue, profit, and quantity as well. So before we now create the month over month calculation. Okay, so now, so previous year for revenue. So we'll be using the calculate function. Calculate function. So filter, we'll be filtering the revenue to bring out the last year. So we'll be using the date add. So we'll be passing the date column from our date table. So we want the previous year, which is -1. So, and which granularity? We want it year level. So close the bracket for date add and close the bracket for calculate. So enter. Okay, so let's see if it works. Okay, so we're on the right track. So now let's create for profit and quantity as well. So instead of me writing this formula, let's copy this and apply it to the profit and quantity as well. Okay, so Control V. So profit. Okay, so now for quantity as well. So in case if you did not understand what's going on here, so we have already summed our quantity. Likewise for revenue and profit, we have already sum it when we create this quantity here, this main measure here. We have already sum it. So now we don't need to perform any expression here. And this calculate here is meant to filter. So that means we are using the date add to go back to 1 year behind or previous 1 year. So that's what is actually happening here in case if you did not understand. So now click enter. Now I've already mixed this up. As you can see, we now have this pay quantity in this main KPIs. So it doesn't really matter because once I group them together again, it's going to transfer to the previous year label. Okay, so PY. Okay, so as you can see, now let's create for previous month as well. So let me fold this. New measure. Okay, so we are still going to create the same for revenue, for profit, and also for quantity. So it is this we'll be using in our month over month calculation, and also for the previous year, be using it in our year over year calculation. So, and also some of you might be confused that instead of writing this, why can't I just write the whole formula and just label it year over year instead of getting this previous year and previous month? The reason is because we'll be using the conditional formatting. That means we'll be using the conditional color. So from the conditional color, we'll be writing a formula such as if previous year is greater than, or if current year is greater than previous year, then we want the green, else we want red. So if you did not define this explicitly, if you did not define it explicitly, we won't be able to measure that. So that's why I'm defining this. So please grab that. So now for the previous month revenue, so it's going to be PM revenue equals, so we are still going to perform the same operation or the same formula which we define for calculate, but rather than selecting year, we'll be selecting month. So it's going to be calculate. So we want the revenue. So we want the revenue, and be careful, it's not previous year revenue. We want the revenue, then we want the date add function, then select the date column from the date table, then we want it previous month -1. So we want the month level granularity. So close the bracket for date add, close the bracket for calculate. So now let's copy this as well and click enter. Okay, so now let's create for profit as well. So Ctrl V. So instead of revenue, it's going to be profit. So profit. So this saves us the stress of repeating this. So for quantity as well, Ctrl V. So for quantity and quantity, enter. Okay, so let's group this together as well. So previous month, now group them together as PM. Okay. Okay, so we have already defined this as well. Now let's do our month over month and year over year calculation. So head over to KPI measure, right click, new measure. So let's start with our year over year. So it's going to be YOY. So for revenue, so it's going to be, so let's add a new line. So we are going to define a variable var a equals, so we're using the divide function. So now the formula to calculate year over year or month over month is current month, which is the revenue, divide by the previous month, which is the previous year, by the previous date. Yes, let's just say by the previous date. So comma 0 in case if you encounter 0, then minus 1. And also some people, they do use something as another formula, which is current month minus previous month divided by previous month. It works as well. So both formulas are accurate. Okay, so now we are going to test for something. So var b equals to if, so now you are going to see the importance of this previous year. So if revenue, which is our current year revenue, so the test, condition test, is greater than the previous year revenue, so we want the up arrow, and if it is less, we want the down arrow. So now I'm supposed to import those icons here, but there is another universal character which you can also use. So it's a code which you can use to denote that, and Power BI is going to translate it into the actual icon. So let's just select all. So Control C and enter. So if the revenue, the current year revenue, is greater than the previous year revenue, so this is going to show the up arrow, while if it is less, it's going to show the down arrow. So if it is, so that means if this is true, this will show, and if it is false, this will show. Okay, so let's close the bracket. Now we are going to return both. We are going to return this and concatenated with this. So let me show you what I mean. So we are going to use the return. So we are going to return B, which is this, which is the, if this is correct, if this is true, it's going to return this. So which will be denoting the up arrow. Then we are going to concatenate with the ampersand to this A here. Now this A here is going to return in decimal or in fractions. So we don't want that, we want it in percentage. So we are going to use the format function. So format A, so we are going to format this A and express it as 0 percentage. So let's close this and press enter. Okay, so let's see if it works. Okay, so as you can see, it is working. So now let's copy this same code and we are going to apply it for quantity, for year over year quantity and year over year profit. So now new measure. So let me quickly create for quantity and for profit as well. Okay, so let's check if those are working as well. Year over year quantity. Okay. And also let's check for profit as well. Okay, so we're on the right track. So now this one is for year over year. So we are going to group them together and also create for month over month as well. So head over to model view. So select, hold your control key and use your mouse to click it. Okay, so now it's going to be year over year and click enter. Okay, so we are done with that. Let's close it. Okay, no, so now let's create for month over month as well. So it's still going to be the same syntax for year over year, but we are going to, instead of using the previous year, we are going to use the previous month. So new measure. Okay, so let me paste the previous code we did. So it's going to be month over month, MOM. So year, now we are now going to change this to PM. Since you already have the previous month defined here, so that's why you are seeing this here. So PM revenue. So it's going to be the revenue and then PM again, PM revenue. So as you can see, we are done with this. So to make this quick, so click enter. So I will go ahead and create for profit and for quantity as well. So let's check if it's working. Okay, it's working. So now let's create for profit and quantity as well. So I will quickly go and define that. So let me copy this. Control C. Okay. So now let's create those measure as well. New measure. Okay, so now let's group them together as well. Model view. Okay, so control select. So it's going to be our month over month. So head over to our report view. So guys, so we have defined the KPIs. So now there is something else we need to define. So you know that right now, if let's select this first and see how it looks. So, okay, not this. So as you can see, it's currently not color coded compared to this, which is color coded. Compared to this, which is color coded. So this is in green, while this one is still in plain black. So we are going to define the KPIs for those color code as well. So we are going to define for month over month and also are going to define for year over year. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, right click, here measure. So we are going to label it as color y year over year for revenue. So it's going to be if revenue, our current year revenue is greater than our previous year revenue. So we want it to be green. Else, if it is less, we want it to be red. Click enter and let's check this. Okay, so let's use year over year revenue. So we're going to define a new KPI card. So now on this KPI card, we go to the format option, format, and then on this call out value, so we'll be selecting this here, conditional formatting. So we will select find value, then click on this. So on this KPI measure, click on it, then select this and click OK. Let's see if it applies. Okay, so it's working. So we go ahead and define for year over year for profits and as well for quantity. After that, I will go ahead and define for month over month as well for revenue, profit, and quantity. So let me quickly go ahead and do that. Okay, so let's go ahead and group this together. Okay, head back to the report view. Okay, so now let's create for month over month as well. New measure. So color, MOM, month over month. For revenue, so it will be if revenue is greater than previous month's revenue. So we want it to be green. That means there is an increase in growth. Else, if it is less, we want it red. Okay, so enter. So let me copy this. So I will do for profit and quantity as well. Okay, so let me pick any of these and see if this is working. Since I've already used this before on this, let me select this one we created earlier. So let's select for, let's see for quantity. Okay, so now let's apply the conditional formatting. So feed value. So it's going to be month over month color quantity. Month over month quantity. Okay. Okay, so it's working. So let me group all these together as well. So model view. Sorry about that. Okay, so this is going to be month over month color. Click enter. So that will be all for creating our KPIs. So that will be all. That will be all. So let me remove all this. Okay, so now we are through with creating of the KPIs. So now let's bring in all the charts and also the KPIs before we now start with the customization. So let's go ahead and do that. So bring out the KPI card. So let me shrink this. Okay. Okay, so for this is going to be our revenue, then followed by profit, profit margin, quantity, and average discount. Okay, so the first one is revenue. So I want this in just in one decimal place. So I'll be formatting this, removing this from auto to one decimal place. And also it's in currency. So let's apply the currency as well. Let's revert this back to one decimal place. Okay, so now let's bring in for our profit as well. Okay, let's format this as well. So click on profit. So I want it in currency and then one decimal place. Okay, so for the profit margin, just click on this. It's in appropriate format. Okay, so let me shrink this and remove the category label. Let's shrink this to 15. And the font type, let's use Gois UI semi-bold. So shrink it. Okay. So for the quantity as well, just click on this box. Okay, for the average discount as well. Okay, so now let's remove the background. So Control A, then size and style. Let's remove the background. And also let's remove the category label because we'll be creating our own text. So our text is at the top, not beneath. So let's remove that since we'll be creating ours. So remove the category label. Remove the category label. So let's shrink this. So for the size of this, let's bring it to 20. And also let's change the font style. So go UI semi-bold. So for the font size, so let's bring it to 25. And we adjust it as needed while we are customizing it. Okay, so let's shrink this. Let's shrink this further. So for this, let's make it 35. Okay, so now let's bring in our charts. So we are going to bring in this area chart, then this sales across months, and also for this category as well, and also this donut chart as well as the scatter plot, also for shape map and for table as well. Okay, so let's go ahead and bring those. Okay, so the area chart, so this is going to be our spark line. So we'll be using this to plot sales across the years. So we'll be applying drill down as well. So on the x-axis, the x-axis is going to be the date hierarchy, and on the y-axis is going to be the revenue measure. Okay, so we'll be removing this x-axis and this y-axis because this is a spark line. So Now let's go ahead and define our donut chart. So click on this. So I want to bring in all the chart before I start customizing. So this is going to be share by segments. So segments on the legend and revenue on the values. So let's bring in our scatter plots or scatter charts. So the independent variable, which is the discounts. The reason I'm not using this is because we have already averaged this. I want to bring in from this our order table in its defined form so that you can be able to see directly instead of with the average. This is the appropriate way on doing that. So we are trying to test if increase in discounts leads to increase in quantity. So thereby, if this is affecting our revenue, so the independent variable will be on the x-axis, which is the discounts, and the dependent variable, which is the quantity, is going to be on our y-axis. So what's actually to be on the y-axis? So I should have probably put something of like Pearson correlation test here. So to see the magnitude, that means the strength of that relationship. But unfortunately, Power BI or DAX doesn't have Pearson correlation test measure. So I don't want us to go ahead and define that because that's going to take a while to define that formula. So that's I'm just using just scatter plot directly and not including that Pearson correlation test. Okay, so now we have already bring in those two axes. So now let's bring in our product name. So our product name is going to be on the value. So it's going to represent each data point. So that means each of these products is a data point. So let's include our trend line so that we can see the direction of that relationship. Okay, as you can see, this is a weak relationship, almost. At least even if it seems as if there is even no relationship because we can't be certain with this until we use that Pearson correlation test to see the magnitude. So if it is from this 00 year, and the line went like this diagonally, that means the strength of there is an increase in strength, or the relationship between the discount and the quantity is strong. But right now it is not strong, so we can probably say they should drop that discount as part of their marketing strategy because it is not leading to the number of quantity purchased due to that discount, so that they can be able to maximize our profit margin. So that's just it for that. Okay, so now let's bring in our sales across months for each year. So let's bring in our column chart. So now we won't do under this data hierarchy. So bring in the month name. So it's going to be on the x-axis. Then the revenue is going to be on the y-axis. Okay, so let's remove this. Let's use this directly instead of that. Okay, so this is it. As you can see, it is sorted chronologically. So assuming we didn't sort by this month number that we created earlier, so assuming we didn't sort this month name by this month number, it's going to be arranged alphabetically or probably being sorted by revenue, either ascending or in descending order. So right now it's currently sorted chronologically. So and that's what we want. So now let's bring sales by category. So also that will be a bar chart. Okay, so let me bring it below. So let's expand. Okay, so now let's bring in the data. So on the y-axis is going to be the category, and on the x-axis is going to be the revenue. Now I said I want us to be able to drill down from the category level to the subcategory level, then to the product level. So let's quickly create that. So I should probably create an hierarchy here, but I don't want us to waste much time. So I'll just be bringing in this directly. So Power BI is going to automatically create those hierarchy for us. So subcategory, so just put it below to create an hierarchy. Drag this and place it below. So as you can see, this option is visible. So from this can be able to drill down. So now let's bring in our product name as well to be part of the hierarchy. So let's see if it's working. So we are currently on the category level. So let's click on any of these. So I click this as one. So this one, once I click on this, is going to allow us to click on this bars. So we can be able to drill down by that category. So let's click on this technology category. So as you can see, the changes are taking effect. So as you can see, this is our subcategory. So we're on the subcategory level. So let's click on it again so that we can go to the product name level or the product level. Okay, so as you can see, it's working. Okay, so let's drill up. Yes, I want you to notice something from this. So from this phone category, as you can see, looks like if there is an increase in discounts, there is an increase in the number of quantity purchase. So that's why you can see this trend line is changing. As you can see, it's changing. So that means the discount is working for this category. So we can't say for all categories, but for this category it is working. And also, if you bring in the Pearson correlation test, it will have given us the exact magnitude or the exact strength of that relationship. So take note of that. Okay, so now let's bring in our what else? So let's bring in our shape map. Okay, so guys, this is the shape map here. But I want you to notice something. In case if you didn't see this shape map here, so just go over to this file, then go to options and settings, then click on options. Okay, so after getting here, just go to this preview features. So from here, just check this box here and click OK. So it's going to prompt you to restart the Power BI. So just restart that. So after restarting it, it's going to bring this shape map here. You're going to see it here. And you should also be sure to save your work for restarting it. So that will be that. Okay, so now click on this shape map. Okay, so let me bring it down. So let's expand it. Okay, so for the location, it's going to be the state. So just click on it and drag it onto this location. Then for the color saturation, is going to be our revenue. Okay, so as you can see, it looks like most of our sales margin is from California, then followed by New York, then followed by Texas and Washington, as well as the rest. Okay, so now let's bring in that table. So click on table here. So we're going to bring in our, let me first. Okay, so we are going to bring in our product name. From here, we can see the top performing products and as well as the least performing products. So let me bring in the revenue. So revenue. Okay, so let me see what else. Revenue, profit, quantity, revenue. So and a profit. quantity. Let's bring in the profit margin as well, and as well as the average discount for that product. Okay, so let me remove this total row. Okay, so we can be able to scroll up and scroll down. So let me shrink this. I can be able to see some of this visibly. So let's sort this by revenue. Okay, so as you can see, our top performing product is Canon Image, the charts, and as well as our KPIs. Also, we are yet to bring in the month over month as well as year over year KPIs. So now what we are going to do now is we'll be customizing our dashboard background, which is this. So it's a bit of black and almost black colors. So we'll be bringing that in. So now we are going to head over to our PowerPoint and create the dashboard background. And if you can't create that, I'm going to include an image of this which I've created earlier. So I'm going to include it in part of this project folder. Let's head over to our PowerPoint and create it. So after opening your PowerPoint, click on blank presentation. Then from here, just press Ctrl A and click the delete key. So we bring in this rectangle with curved edges, this here. So for this background, so I have a color picker here, which I'll be using picking the colors from this image. So you can as well go ahead and download it from Microsoft Store. So click on this pick color. So Ctrl A, Ctrl X. So I'll be removing the outlines, no outline. So shape fill, so more fill color. So Ctrl V. Okay. So now let's bring in our KPI background. So all this KPIs background as well as this navigation bar. Okay, so click on this. Let's see if it's matching this. Okay. Okay. So let's duplicate this, Ctrl D. Okay. So shape fill. Okay, so I want this to match the background. So it's going to be the currently selected navigation or the currently selected page. So that's why I'm using this. As you can see, it's almost is matching the background. So if this one is being selected as well, it's going to match this background. But all these here are just design purpose. They are not functional. They are just for design, not functional. So if I'm creating a full-fledged dashboard, which will include this analytics, database, and settings and logouts, that means I have to put this inside one of these as well. That means I'll be creating separate pages for each and every one of these, and also this matching the currently selected page. Okay, so now let's remove all the outlines. So Control A, so shape outline, no outline, and also for the colors. So as you can see, so now for the colors, which of each of these background colors. So let me use the color picker. Okay, Control A, Control C. So for each and every one of these, shape fill. So it's going to be more fill color. Control A and Control V. Okay, so now for this one as well, shape fill. So first color. So let me select them. Okay. Okay, so now it remains for the filters. So for the region filters and as well as for the date filter. So let's quickly do that. So for the region, so let me duplicate this, and as well for the dates. Okay, so now let's remove the shape outline as well as the shape fill. Okay, so now everything is looking good. So let me group it all together. So group together, and we can save it as picture. Save as picture. So I want this to be in my dashboard. So it's going to be, let's just name it SS PNG. Click save. So now let's bring it into Power BI. So on the Power BI, so make sure that nothing is being selected, no charts or KPI is being selected. So then go to this canvas background. So click on browse image. So it's currently selected as SS. So right now you can't see it because of this transparency. So let's reduce the transparency. Okay. So let's make sure it's filled. Okay. So now for our KPIs, let's change the colors to white instead of this black. And as well for our charts, let's remove the background. Okay, so let's start with formatting of these charts. So for this spark line, so we are going to remove the X and the Y axis. So we don't need the title as well. The X axis, we don't need that. And for the Y axis, we don't need that as well. don't need the values, and as well we don't need the title. Okay, so for the line, let's make sure it is smooth and reduce the width, and let's make sure it's smooth. Okay, so for this as well, let's change this to percentage instead of both, and the percent of total. And also for the legend, let's change the title also to, let's change the chart title to white. And the font size, let's reduce it. So the font style, let's use Go UI semi-bold. Okay, so it's looking nice. Let me reduce it further. Okay, so it's looking nice. It's looking nice. Okay, so let's go back and do this customization. So let's reduce this to 8. So for the legend, we don't need the legend title. And also let's place it below, bottom center. Let's also reduce the size of the values. Let's also reduce the size of the legend, and also change the color to white. Okay, so for the details as well, let's change it to white. And I don't want decimal. Let's remove the decimal. Okay, so for the slice, let's increase the radius. So let's increase it to 95. Okay, I believe this is good. 95 is good. Okay, so for this one as well, let's remove the grid lines. Let's change the color of the x-axis first. Let's change it to white. So for the y-axis, let's remove the values. I don't need it. Okay, so now let's do as well for this. So for the x-axis values, I don't need it. So on the y-axis, so let's change the color to white. Okay, so now for this table, let's remove the background. So for the values, so for the text color, let's change it to white. And for the background, let's change it to black. So alternate text color, let's change it to white as well. Alternate background, let's change it to black. And also let's reduce the font size. Okay, so let's do for the scatter chart as well. So we don't want the x-axis. Just want to check the relationship, the strength of the relationship. So for the trend line, let's change it to white. Okay, so we're on the right track. Okay, so let me go ahead and fit this into their respective background. Okay, so now let me remove this y-axis label or title. Let me remove the values as well. No, not for the x-axis, for the y-axis only. Titles. And also for this as well, for the y-axis. So just the title, not the values. Okay. So now let me change the color to bright orange. So now I'll be using my color picker to pick the color. Okay. So Control A, Control C. So for this, so markers, color. So changing it more colors. Okay, clear it and Control V. Okay, so for this bar chart as well. So for the bars, so for the column chart as well. So for the shape map as well, fill color. The color scale here. So for the minimum value, so select this. And for the maximum, select this. Okay. So now for this spark line, so we'll be going with lines. Okay. So we're on the right track. So now for this donuts chart, so we want to use a color gradient. So now I should have probably select this and color it individually, but there is a method on how to do this. So the method is that convert this to bar chart for us, column chart, either column chart or either bar chart. So after converting it, then head over to the column. So on this column here, click this FX. We are going to use a gradient color. So gradients. So the minimum is going to be this, and the maximum is going to be this. So click OK. So now let's return it back to the donuts chart. Let's bring in our month over month and year over year as well. Okay, so to do that, I'm going to use a text box. So because we'll be labeling it. Let's bring in the label as well. Let's first bring in the label. So insert text box. Okay, so the text box is going to be revenue. Revenue. So Control A. Sorry, so go UI semi-bold. Let's increase the font size to 12. Okay, so the color should be white. And we don't want any background. So let me shrink this. So let me check the placement, because at the middle. Okay, revenue. So let me copy this, Control C, Control V. Okay, so now let's use this. Let's use this. So this KPI card. So Control C, Control V. Let me check the colored value size. So let's reduce it to size 8. Okay, so now Control C, Control V again. Okay, so now let's change this value to previous year, which is year over year for revenue. So we remove the profit margin and use the year over year for revenue. Okay, so now let's add the color formatting, or the conditional color, the conditional formatting. Okay, so now under this colored value, so we click on this FX. So feed value. So from this option here, Y over Y color. So for revenue, click OK. Okay, so it's working now for this as well. So we remove from profit margin and head over to our month over month. So for revenue, and also conditional formatting. So feed value, month over month color for revenue. Give it a minute. Okay, so I want you to note something. Can say this color is dark green, so you can use this X color code to change it to light green. So, but I won't be doing that here, as there's a chance it might mess up the conditional color formatting. So I will just leave it as this. But if you want to replicate this project, so you can go ahead and do that while creating this year over year color and month over month color. So this is the full formula, as you can see. So now let's bring in for profits and for quantity as well. So let me go ahead and copy this again. So Ctrl C, Ctrl V. Okay, so let's populate it with its actual data. So year over year for profits. And month over month for profits. So for quantity, okay, so let me go ahead and format this properly. Okay, so now let's use the color conditional coloring. So for the previous, so year over year for profits, find value. So year over year color. So year over year color for profits. Okay, so let's do for months as well. Feed value. So let's do for quantity as well. Feed value. So, and guys, that is it. So now let's bring in our label, the dashboard, the rest of the navigation bar. So like I said, they are designed, they are not functional. So let's bring all this in, and also let's bring in our filters as well. Okay, so now let's first bring in the filter. So we'll be using the region filter. So slicer. So be using the region. We want it as tile. We don't want the header. So a style. Okay, so for the values, let's reduce it to around it, I think. Yes, around it. And use Sego semi UI board. Sego UI semi board. For the padding, let's reduce it to 0. And also for the border, let's remove the borders. We don't want that. So for the background, let the background, we want it to match this. So let me use my color picker to pick the color. More colors. So now for the background, let's remove the background. Let's change the text color to white. So for the background, let's remove the background. Okay, so now let's do for the okay, so now let's proceed. Let's do for the date as well. So slicer again. Okay, so we'll be adding the data hierarchy this time around. So okay, so we want this as a drop down. Okay, so slicer header, we don't want that. So the font color, let's reduce it to 8. And also Sego UI semi bold. The font color to white. At the background, let's turn it off. Okay, so let me shrink this. Okay, so now let's change this color, this background color to black. So it will match the background of this. Okay, so we are done with the slicers now. So what's left is to bring in our labels. Okay, so let's start with this sidebar or navigation bar, then we proceed with the button. Okay, so now let's bring in our text box. Text box. So this is going to be dashboard. So the font color is going to be white. And also we don't want the background. Let's increase it to 10.5. Let's reduce it. Let's reduce it to 9. So I will go ahead and do for the rest as well. So copy this, Ctrl C, Ctrl V. Okay, so now let's create the clear filter button. Okay, so now to do that, you have to head over to bookmarks. In case if you are not seeing these bookmarks here, click on view and click on this here. So it will appear here. Okay, so that's that. So click bookmark, then click add. So let's rename it to clear. So change it to clear, press enter. Now head over to insert. So click buttons, blank. So drag it below. Okay, so now let's quickly do some customization. Okay, so button style. So we want it to have round corners. And also for the borders, let's remove the borders. Let's fill it. Okay, so now let's remove this icon. Let's turn this off. So let's add the text. So clear. So let's reduce it to size. Let's leave it at 10. That 10 is best. So the font type, Sego UI semi-bold. And also the font color, let's change it to white. And also for the alignment, let's centralize it. So the transparency, let's reduce the transparency. We don't want that. Okay. Okay, this is looking nice. Okay, now I want to mention something. See, before you apply any of this filter here, before you apply any of this filter, make sure that you did not apply any filter before creating this clear bookmark here. Because what this is actually doing is that it's not clearing this filter in its actual sense. It is taking a snapshot of how the data looks like. Then once we start applying filters, let me choose 2017. Okay, after choosing 2017, and once I click this filter, so control and select, it's going to return back to the original state. So it's not actually clearing filter in its the right sense. So it's just returning it back to the original state. So that's what this clear filter is doing. So now we are here to add the action, which is this clear action here. So let's go ahead and do that. So we have already selected this button. So let's apply the action. So action, let's turn it on. And then what do we want? Bookmark. We want clear, which is this clear here. Okay, so now let's clear it. Let's clear the filter. So as can see, it has cleared. That means it's returned to the original state, the state which it was when we take the snapshot. So that's what it's actually doing. So now let's bring in our icons. So let me quickly go ahead and do that. So click insert, then image. So icon. So our home, which is our dashboard. So I will go ahead and bring the rest and format it as well. So let me quickly go over and do that. Okay guys, so this is the end of building our dashboard. So we can be able to gain some insight from this. So let's filter by 2016. Let's see if we can gain some insights. Let's check December. So as you can see, in December, we made $97,000 in revenue. And also it was 29% higher than last year. And it was also 22% higher compared to November. Likewise, for profit, we made about 123% more profit compared to last year, and also 345% more profit compared to November. So, and also, as you can see, in November, the discounts we applied doesn't really matter, because from here you can see that this trend line here is not straight. It's actually looking almost horizontal. So probably maybe in next year, maybe 2017 or maybe 2018, then we can just remove discounts for that month, because discount is not making any impact here, and also it's eating into our profit margin. So now let me rename this. This is not sum, this is discount impact on quantity. So let me rename that. So the title, okay. So discount impact on quantity. Okay, so let's clear the filter. Hold the control key and click clear. So it's cleared. And for this, our monthly sales, let's turn on the title. Seems we forgot and turn it off. So just month. There's no need of adding month name. So guys, let me change this heading as well. Column header. Let's say, okay, it was matching the background. So let's use Go UI semi-bold. And also, it is matching the background. The text color. The text color should be white. Sorry about that. White. Or the background. Okay, so it has applied. So let's just add our data label. Turn on. Let's change the color to white. Let's do for this as well. So data label, turn it on. And also there's the font size. Let's just leave it as this. And for the color, let's make it white. And the positioning, let's put it inside. Okay, I believe this is okay. This is okay. Okay, so let's bring in this logo. Let's bring in the logo, which is this logo here. Okay, so insert image. So desktop icon. So let's shrink it. Okay guys, so that will be all for this video.